So let's talk ethics. Regardless of your setting, ethics are important. As chaplains, we must place a high value on our obligation to safeguard the rights of our clients and our patients. And nowhere is this more important than in a medical setting where, sadly, ethics may not be as cut and dried as one would like. The expectations in this series of lectures will be applied from the strictest of settings, healthcare, but these are readily transferable and applicable to all areas of chaplaincy. And we will use the term patient throughout these lectures, but the word is equally applied to the term client. Essentially, ethical decision-making should be applied to anyone that you serve in any and every setting. There are 4 key principles that form a framework for understanding the chaplain's role in ethics, especially healthcare. Respect is one, that is, we have respect for the patient's wishes, because they're in the driver's seat. They are the ones in control of their own healthcare decisions. Such decisions will come from their own unique blend of culture, language, family, experience, faith, and religion. And though a patient's point of view may be very different from yours, it is their preferences that carry the day. So we chaplains must learn their story and understand their wishes so that we can communicate effectively to other members of the team. It's not about our wishes. Always it's about theirs. Do we understand what their wishes are? The second or next is justice. This simply means equal care and treatment for everyone regardless of their position in society. Ethical care is expected to be provided equally for everyone, acknowledging them as in control of their own decisions within the law. And here the lines are being blurred to some degree. Some believe that justice can only be achieved through universal health care. Others believe that justice can only be served when hospitals agree to follow wishes that might have been unthinkable in the past. Issues of life in the womb versus women's rights, transgender surgery, medical-assisted suicide. These are all examples of very difficult subjects that are applied very differently by various people under the name of justice for all. This contains a minefield for the Christian chaplain to navigate well. But know this, yes, you have the right to hold your beliefs, your worldview and faith, and application of what is just and what is not according to your beliefs. You have the right to hold your own view, which may conflict with others on your team or from your patients. But you must be able to respond well without judgment or condemnation. The next is non-maleficence. That phrase, do no harm, that's the mantra for non-maleficence. But the lines are being blurred here too. Chaplains have a real tightrope to walk. What is harm, you might ask? And that may depend a lot on your worldview, your philosophy of life, your theology of truth, what your source of morality is, knowledge of behavioral science and religion and personal ethics. Let's say a patient has a delusion that causes them to self-identify as a person with no arms and no legs. They believe that happiness can only be achieved if a medical team would surgically amputate the arms and legs. No matter how strongly the person believes this to be true, do no harm probably implies a prescription for psychotherapy rather than surgery. But society is changing. Things used to be considered abhorrent are now considered normal. The next is beneficence. This implies promotion of the patient's welfare, looking after the patient's best interest in order to care for their psychological, their physical, mental, and spiritual needs. We look for their best, and we serve the goal of doing what is truly best for them. But this must be balanced against the principles of respect, justice, and non-maleficence. And this will require the Christian chaplain to come to face to face with very different views that will challenge our understanding of the word ethical. So I encourage you to stay true to your faith and do not allow others to dictate what you must believe or do. But you must find a way to help. You serve all to the best of your ability, but you do not deviate from your faith. Now, these 4 key principles of respect, justice, non-maleficence, and beneficence are clearly not cut and dried. A person's individual worldview will influence their version of truth on every one of these. As a chaplain, you'll need to know what you believe, why you believe it, and stay in your lane. You do not have to go along to get along, but you may be faced with situations in which you would need to excuse yourself and find someone else to engage. In 1949, Agus Moniz won the Nobel Prize for inventing the frontal lobotomy as the favored medical treatment for people with mental disorders. There was significant pushback from people whose worldview found that procedure to be abhorrent, and yet any neurosurgeon who would refuse to perform the surgery on a routine basis was ostracized and ridiculed. Some even lost their jobs for refusing to go along with the majority. Today, though, nobody in the medical profession would even dare suggest performing this surgery on someone who has a mental disorder. And yet, fast forward to today and see the impact of transgender philosophy. Many hospitals are accepting sex change surgery as a viable solution to a person's suffering from the pain associated with gender confusion. Now, just a few years ago, the condition was called gender dysphoria, and doctors would treat it as a mental disorder, but no longer. At least in many situations, sex change surgery is becoming mainstream, and now surgeons who refuse to accept this as normative are largely being discredited. What used to be clear lines of male versus female are blurred so much that people are not even sure which bathroom to use anymore. For the Christian chaplain, this poses some significant issues. You must be kind in every circumstance while holding to your view of right and wrong. The point is that the worldview of an individual or a society and an institution will create challenges for the chaplain to navigate. We must listen, care, love, and help. But what exactly does do no harm mean to you? And how do you respond when an institution where you work is at complete odds with your view? Well, I have no easy answers for you, I'm afraid. Our recommendation is simple. Know what you believe, hold fast to your code of conduct and ethics, and stay in your lane. Love people you disagree with and never be disagreeable, judgmental, condemning, or unkind. But you do have the right to hold your ground. This is why we require you to write papers on your theology of life and death, pain and suffering, and why you must write personal reflections and include a theological review in every case study. You are going to face situations that will cause a moral dilemma for you, a battle against expectations that are placed on you by other worldviews, and you must learn to respond in faith. So when you get to Unit 4, we're going to spend a lot of time on this, and most of you will be seeking professional certification as a chaplain. How will you find the right organization to partner or work with? Whose code of conduct and ethics is the best fit for you? There are several well-known agencies that offer credentials, board certification credentials, along with expected adherence to their worldview and ethics as they understand and apply them. You need to know your own view before you can find an entity that would be a best or a good fit for you. There's going to be more to come on this in the future as we proceed forward through CPE. Our main point here is that you will face moral dilemmas as you work through these 4 key principles. Why? Well, because chaplains do the work of clergy, but in secular settings. We Christian chaplains work in what C.S. Lewis describes as enemy-occupied territory, so you can't expect to come under attack for your beliefs. Hold on to Christ. In 2004, a set of common standards for professional chaplaincy was developed. This is worth considering and is provided as a required reading for this week. Key areas for these generally accepted standards for chaplains include 1. General qualifications for endorsement, education, and CPE completion. 2. Ability to articulate a thorough understanding of a theory of pastoral care. 3. Standards also include an ability to demonstrate proficiency in appropriate skills needed by a chaplain. 4. Pastoral giftings and ability. Please note that the word pastoral is not the same as the title of pastor, as used in a church sense. And finally, 5. is professional certifications showing dedication to the craft of chaplaincy and a commitment to education and professionalism. The common theme of medical ethics throughout history has always been, quote, to help people remain healthy and restore their health when they get sick, end quote. Oaths and codes have been developed to codify these ethics for this purpose. Medical ethics is multidisciplinary, involving several different professions, including chaplaincy. You will need to find proper balance between the code of ethics of the clinical site and the code of ethics that you agreed to when you became a chaplain with whoever your endorsing and ordaining organization is. At the end of the day, you must abide by the code of conduct of your chaplain ministry. And if conflict exists between your code of conduct and ethics and an expectation of the facility where you work, and you should find someone else to step in and take your place, or someplace else to work. Just as you should never violate another person's worldview, you are also not required to have their view forced upon you either. It's a tightrope that we chaplains must learn to walk. Now, chaplains are expected to participate effectively in the process of ethical decision-making, including interactions with an ethics committee whose views may vary widely from person to person. Your primary role as chaplains in this process is theological, spiritual, and cultural support. This is why communicating to understand is so much more important than communicating to prescribe. And to add to the challenge, chaplains are not permitted to proselytize, which means arguing persuasively for a particular faith or belief system. Those of us who hold strongly to our Christian belief, especially pastors or evangelists, are going to find this to be a difficult situation to navigate. This does not mean that we shouldn't share our faith with our clients, nor does it mean that we should perform rituals that are outside of our faith. But we should never lead with it. We should never force it upon them or try to prescribe our faith on them uninvited. Sharing should only be done with clients who give us permission and invite us to do so. In a clinical setting, our primary job is to listen, to understand, so that we can help all parties make decisions that lead to positive patient outcomes from a clinical standpoint. Spiritual care is in the context of our expertise in communication and understanding of various religions. You should always be ready to share what we believe and why we believe it when we're invited to do so. Let them open the door, though. Never break that door down uninvited. Be respectful and be willing to understand what they believe and why. The hallmark of an intelligent person is the ability to learn a different point of view without necessarily accepting it as true, but being respectful while understanding it well enough to articulate it accurately to others. Do you know what a person thinks and what they believe? Do you understand it well enough to express their needs to the staff even when their views conflict with your own? Doing this while finding a way to provide meaningful spiritual care to a person who thinks differently from ourselves is an important part of clinical chaplaincy and healthcare ethics. Now, several major philosophical theories exist in ethics, and these include utilitarianism, Kant's categorical imperative, who was a philosopher in the 1700s, Ross's prima facie duties, Rawls' theory of justice, and natural law. These are worth reading to expand your perspective. Links to optional articles are provided in your coursework. Each system of thought will have its own ramifications. Some of them will create some real tension and conflict for you, the chaplain. In a secular setting, there are many different views of ethics. Some will be abhorrent to the Christian chaplain, but we must remain respectful. If you do not experience conflict here, then you should question what you are believing. It is important for you to consider the pros and the cons of these different theories. As part of your professional journey, we highly recommend a thorough reading of each of the optional articles that are provided on the subject. You must wrestle with them. There will be tension. There will be tension.